Hi, and welcome to the third series of the Fancy a Brew podcast, talking about adventure, pushing your boundaries, and chasing dreams of underwater exploration. The podcast is supported by Dive Life Scuba Diving Centre, the one-stop shop for all your recreational and technical dive gear and training needs, boasting a 5-star service and their own in-house gas blending and equipment servicing department. For more information, take a look at their website, divelife.co.uk, or on Instagram and Facebook. In this series, I'm going to be chatting to some of the divers I've met along my scuba dive adventures in the last couple of years, ranging from boat skippers, stunt performers, and underwater explorers. So if that sounds like your cup of tea, grab yourself a brew, sit back, and enjoy this week's episode. Right, Rosie Bancroft, welcome back to Fancy a Brew podcast. About a year ago now since you were last on.
Yeah.
And what a year you've had.
Yeah, it's crazy actually that it's a nice timing coming back on here just after a year. I've just got back from Indonesia like 5 days ago.
Because we didn't think it was going to be a year,
full circle.
We didn't think it was going to be a year. It was just going to be like, do your Divemaster and probably come home.
It was supposed to be 3 months. And then every month I was like, I'll just stay a bit longer. And then a year later, here I am.
I think I've lost count the amount of times that I wrote to you and went, I'm so jealous of where you are right now.
Like, I hate you, your Instagram. Hate you.
Pretty much, yeah. So how did you get on? Clearly it went all right, but tell us about it.
Yeah. So it was a bit like after I spoke to you, I was actually due to leave 2 weeks after that. And then it was all kicking off with Corona last year.
Yeah.
So I ended up being delayed by about 2 months. So I was waiting to head out to Indonesia, but the borders weren't opening. And Indonesia, the government would put out an announcement, say, we'll update you again in 2 weeks. And then in 2 weeks, they say the same thing. And it went on for 2 months. So it was really frustrating. And then there was this big build up to going. And then when I got there, it was like thrown straight into island life, basically, because where I was doing my Divemaster wasn't actually Bali. It was, well, it's Bali, but it's this island off of Bali called Nusa Penida. So Bali is very westernized and but lots of home comforts, but Nusa Penida is very rural and proper island experience. So yeah, it was quite a culture shock at first, and then just sort of kind of didn't even have time to process it, and it was just suddenly into the Divemaster and so full on for 3 months. I don't even know where the time went, and suddenly I was the Divemaster, and it just went really fast, and it was really amazing. But definitely had my ups and downs during the 3 months, that's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I've not come from that sort of paddy, or is it SSI you did yours with, wasn't it?
I did SSI, yeah.
Yeah, so I've not gone through that sort of training routine where you become, or regime where you become a Divemaster. I just went straight in through the military and became an instructor. So talk me through what's involved in being a Divemaster, and then obviously what you had to do to become one.
So mine was a bit different because I was doing a program which was linked with the Marine Conservation Project. Yeah. So I wasn't just doing my Divemaster, I was also being trained in research diving, and we were actually collecting research and doing surveys, and then doing sort of workshops and learning about all the different species that we were studying, basically. So it was a longer period of time because I was also doing this program simultaneously. Yeah. But in terms of the actual Divemaster, you basically have this long list of tick boxes, like tasks or things you have to have been able to do and show that you've done. And yeah, you just have to get through and learn each of these things. You learn it in the workshop on land, and then you go out and you practice it, and then you get tested on it. And it ranges from things like deploying an SMB to leading a dive, to navigation, all that sort of thing. You need to be able to be competent in taking out a group of divers by the end of it, basically.
Right. How do you find it?
My worst thing was my SMB. I honestly had such a bad time. I felt like I was the only one. And I know that I've heard since, like, oh, some people do really struggle with it, but it was the only one in my group, which just, like, I tried so much and I just couldn't do it. It took me 3 times as long as everybody else to learn.
I think with that there's a technique though in it of getting it out, setting it up, and getting it to the point where you can inflate it, whichever means you do. I mean, like, now I'm using a rebreather. I've got to use a separate cylinder and a hose. So I don't just
Yeah.
put it in my mouth and blow it up. So that's like even more faff. And before you know it,
Yeah.
you're up and down like in a water column,
Oh,
aren't you?
don't.
And
Yeah, I shot up
it's
to the surface many a time. But yeah, I think for me as well, it got in my head, and I think there was a couple of times with doing my Divemaster, it's like was a challenge, and I had to overcome it mentally, like physically. It's really not that difficult doing an
mm,
SMB, but I got it in my head that I was bad at it and I couldn't do it, and then it was every time I went to do it, I was overthinking it so much.
yeah.
So I think that was quite hard, but it's funny because when I was going into it, I was thinking that a lot of my challenges were going to be around having one leg. And then one of my
Mm.
biggest ones was just my SMB, which has absolutely nothing to do with
One of
having
your
one leg.
challenges was that you've got one leg, and the next thing you're on a surfboard, surfing better than me, and I've been surfing for years.
Have you? Oh yeah, I didn't know that. Although, what have you been surfing down in Cornwall or?
Well, sort of like around the Welsh coast, sort of that way. So the
Mm,
top end of Cornwall, viewed upwards, and then around sort of
mm.
Porthcawl that way. My
Oh,
brother-in-law, he
nice. You have
used.
to give me some advice.
I can't give you any. Just go do it loads and get someone who knows what they're doing to not laugh at you too much when you're
Yeah.
doing it.
Well, I just don't know where anywhere that would be a good spot in the UK or in Europe. I'm
Well,
looking for that's
well,
my
probably
next
for
trip
you,
actually.
like my brother-in-law, they live on the south coast of Wales, so that's not too far to get to. And then you could also carry on onto sort of Devon, on the peninsula of Devon. But for me,
Yeah.
it's probably about 2.5 hours to the nearest worthwhile spot. But I've just got loads of other things going on, like everybody else. If it's on your doorstep
Yeah.
like it was when you were away,
Yeah,
you
it's
get good because you do it every day or every other day, don't you?
exactly. It's one of those things that you really have to do consistently to be good at. You
Yeah,
cannot just like learn it in a week and then that's it.
yeah.
But it's yeah, it's just another excuse to be in the water. And especially after I did my dive master, I found I was like craving being in the ocean, but it's not that easy to just uh to be like, obviously when you dive master it was 3 times a day every day for three
Oh,
months or something like
relentless.
that. But it's not like that when you're suddenly to go from that to, oh, I have to pay this much to dive and I can maybe do it on the weekends, but that's like a treat. It's
Yeah.
quite an adjustment. And I think that's where I went into surfing, because just being able to go and be in the ocean in the morning, even if I didn't catch any waves, like it was a bad day, it still just was just like my ocean fix.
Yeah. What was the sort of food and that like? Because I'm notorious around my house for being a bit fussy. You know,
Mm.
if I there's certain things that I'll have to pick them out, but then if they were mixed in and I didn't know they were in, I'd eat them, and it's not a problem. So I'd be like going to sort of Southeast Asia direction. I'm like, oh, what are they going to be eating here? It's probably just chicken and lamb and that, but I'm still
Yeah, it's
nervous
like
because
a lot of fried things.
yeah,
It's the word for fried in Bahasa Indonesian is goreng, and it's funny because you just hear goreng everywhere. It's like fried chicken, fried rice, fried noodles, fried lamb,
yeah,
fried, literally they'll fry potatoes, they'll fry bread. So
yeah,
the local stuff was, I really got to like it, especially you find your spots that do like the nice little local places that do good local proper Indonesian food. But
yeah.
to be honest, in Bali, the food is very Western. So you have your pick, like Mexican, Thai. It's like being in an amazing city in Europe or something, having all that kind of food options, except it's a tiny little community.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's in Nusa Penida, it was more local food and
Like
having to not
authentic.
be very picky. Yeah. But then
Yeah.
when you get to Bali, it's pretty nice.
I'm gonna guess a massive wild guess here. Were you hanging around with a lot of Americans?
Not really, actually.
I
Why
just
is my accent different?
your
Yeah,
accent famously goes up, down,
I
left, right,
know.
here, there, and everywhere, doesn't it? And I'm like, yeah, there's definitely a twang there. There must be.
No,
So you didn't at all,
mainly
then?
mainly French people, to be honest.
Right.
It's like a huge French diving scene in
Yeah.
Bali. But also, I think it's just that I'm just confused. My accent just changes. But also, maybe not being around British people for a
Yeah.
year. This is what my accent was a bit like before. So maybe I've got. Yeah, I haven't noticed it, so I don't know. I'm gonna be super conscious of it now.
Don't be. No, I was on some thing for Netflix last week, and there was a girl on it, and her and her dad have just moved over from Romania like a year ago, and she
Mm,
sounds more like she's from my local town than I do. But she's like must be 18 or something, and he's
Right.
more my age, and he sounds like he's clearly from Romania. And I said, "How have you picked up the accent already?" She goes, "Well, all we do is watch like American soap operas and stuff. So her English accent was actually American.
Right.
So
Yeah.
maybe like the French that you're hanging around with, and that maybe they're picking that. I don't know, but I'll probably cut
Yeah.
this out because it sounds terrible. It's absolutely shocking that I was like, I bet you my mortgage that you're hanging around with Americans. You're like, no,
Oh
not
yeah,
at all.
sorry. Sorry to disappoint, but no, actually, not really. There
Just
wasn't so many
prove that I'm a
Americans.
dick. Nice. So, I mean, like, is it all that your Instagram cracked up to be because it looks it? In like, she's pecking my
It
head now.
sounds.
We've got to go. We've got to go. We've got to go. And I'm like, well, I've got to wait till I speak
Yeah,
to
you
you
should.
first.
No, you should. It's like I'm very aware of the Instagram world, and that a lot of times it's really not a reflection. And obviously, it's your highlights. Like your Instagram is always your best parts, and it's not
Yeah,
always. You have to take it with a pinch of salt, and that of course people have bad times. But in terms of the beauty of Indonesia, I really feel like it's it's actually true. And I
yeah,
felt like I was living this life where I would wake up and pinch myself like I can't believe this is my life. And it was honestly felt like I was in some kind of other world, and it was really genuinely just as good as it looks. Like it was
yeah.
really amazing. But I feel like as well I got so much out of my year, and I was also very ready to come home for a bit and for another place, another challenge.
Yeah.
So it's one of them, like you, when you travel you fall in love with somewhere, and then you move and you fall in love with somewhere else. It's
Yeah,
just it's the life. But yeah, you should definitely go. 100%
I can't wait.
recommend. I'll give you
I
some good recommendations.
oh god, there's gonna be a list about as long as like the world in it
Mm,
because everywhere like, I was almost a daily you're in some other resort. I'm like, how are you in there?
it's super
How have you
cheap,
making it?
yeah.
Is it?
It's super cheap. So a lot of them, like we go away, we stayed in one place, like where we live, which was
Mm,
Canggu, which is where I said there's all the bars and restaurants. But then we do a lot of weekend trips. And like, so what I paid for rent for a month, for example, is like in those like really nice places would be like 150, £200 for the
wow.
month. And then that includes like your cleaning and your laundry and whatnot. And then if you go away on the weekend, you can easily stay in like these really bougie places for maybe £20 a night for two people. So you kind
Jeez.
of, it's really, and then your food you can eat really cheap. So the only thing that was expensive, unfortunately, was alcohol. Alcohol was really expensive, but apart from that, it was yeah, it was very affordable. So you're kind of in these places, and I think like, what would I get in the UK for £20 a night? Like, I don't even know if I get anywhere
A
in
newspaper
the
and a
UK.
park bench, probably, wouldn't you?
Yeah,
That's terrible.
exactly. But it's
Um,
also partly because of COVID, and we're in like the COVID prices are cheaper. So, and I
is it?
actually hope that they go up because for Bali and the Balinese people, they're really needing tourism right now. So
Yeah.
I hope that they can start getting more, putting their
Did you
prices up.
find it was pretty quiet throughout the time you were there then, or did it increase towards
Mm.
before you came home?
It started to increase now. They've just stopped quarantine, and they've just announced a visa on arrival, so you can basically just fly to Bali as a
Yeah.
tourist now. But there were some points where I was in full lockdown in Bali, and it was pretty intense. Like it's like the army on the streets, and
Yeah.
nowhere was open. And I think in that time I did a month where we went into the kind of like the jungle basically, because we were like, well, there's no point in being in this big expat city right now when
Yeah.
no one's able to leave their house. So we went out into the jungle and had a cool few weeks. That's the nice thing about being somewhere like that in lockdown, is that there's these options to escape to the ocean or to the jungle a bit.
I think that's the last frontier for me. I've never done the jungle, and it kind of frightens me. All these little things that can like
Mm.
ruin your day quite quickly.
Yeah, yeah, the critters were pretty
Mm,
extreme.
yeah. How did you make a living then? Obviously, the first few months you were there, you were working as such, weren't you? So they were
Yeah.
funding both your diving, your work, and then obviously your lifestyle. But after that, did you carry on working, or did you just sort of
So
look
so
at your
before I
savings?
left, I did have to use savings in the
Yeah.
interim period, like in between. But before I left, I'd done a degree in zoology, and I was then working in the University of Manchester sport office, and sort of doing like a bit of a sport officer role. And there was a lot of managing and some social media and marketing stuff. So when I finished with IOP, Indo-Ocean Project, that's how I did my program with, I decided I really want to try and stay in Bali for a while. But you can't work like in a bar or a restaurant or something there, or for a company there. You only can work online. And so that's when I got a job in marketing online, and I just started doing freelance. First it was just freelance social media, and then it kind of developed and I got more clients and it became more general marketing. So then now I'm like marketing exec for, I've got 3 clients right now. It's actually going really well, but what I ideally would really like would be to do this role but for an ocean conservation organization, because what I'm doing now is actually, at first I just thought I'll just do this to afford the Bali life, but actually enjoy it. It's really cool, and I feel like doing media and video editing especially I really like, but I'd really like to be doing it for something that I really care about. So that's the next steps, hopefully, be to move over to a different organization, but doing a similar thing, I think.
What about diving? Where are you going to go with that? Are you going to get a dry suit anytime soon?
Yeah, so I was at the Go Diving show on the weekend, and I was looking at the dry suits. Like, I don't even think that's going to keep me warm. I get that cold. But yeah, well, we'll just have to see. I think hopefully getting a job which incorporated diving would be really cool.
Yeah. How did you find getting picked up then by girls at Scuba? Must have
Yeah,
been a bit overwhelming.
it was actually, because I'd actually followed Girls at Scuba for years, like since I initially started diving in 2016, and I was just open water and I'd only dived a few times. I somehow was following them, so it was quite the honor, and they've been amazing since, like really supportive. It's an amazing community, and like the other ambassadors, we have a little group chat,
Yeah.
and so we speak, and it's cool seeing what other girls are doing, and it's very inspiring actually. So yeah, it's been very cool.
What did he try and promote? I mean, obviously I had Sarah on, who, like the founder, very early doors, and from someone who, let's say I'm in the dive community because I'm a diver, nothing else, I can see what they're about. But if somebody is listening to this and doesn't know what Girls at Scuba are about, what are they trying to promote? What's your involvement with them?
So it's the main thing is it's a community. So it's a community of female divers, and on their blog and their website and their Instagram, they cover all sorts of topics. So if you're looking for like what kind of mask strap to get that's not going to ruin your hair, or what wetsuits for different body types, which is actually a huge thing for women, is that a lot
Yeah.
of wetsuits are not made with women in mind. So it's like a kind of space where a lot of your questions are answered, or if you're wondering about going on a liveaboard and you don't know what it's like. So I recently did some stories for them where I was just talking about my first experience on a liveaboard and my advice in terms of, what I would have told myself before I went, and answering questions. But also I think in terms of the ambassadors, it's kind of people that would kind of inspire you to get into diving in different ways, or they're all sort of promoting a certain message within the diving community. And so it's just been a lot about, like, if from my side of it is, if you are worried about there's some sort of limitation you might have, or you don't think you could do it, or you don't think you could do the next step of your diving career,
Yeah.
then just go for it, because it's anything is possible, and there's the only limitations you have are the ones you put on yourself.
Definitely.
So I think from that perspective, it's just, yeah, the community and the blog. They also organize trips, so you can go on a Girls at Scuba trip with like other women from around the world that are divers. You don't know anyone, and you just go on the trip to, like, they do the Red Sea and things like that. This is very cool. It's very cool. If anyone's listening and they haven't checked it out, I would seriously recommend, because it's very good.
I think social media can be, like you said before, like your Instagram can be like a snapshot of all the best bits, so perhaps hide some things like struggles and whatnot. But Facebook, I've done this on a couple of podcasts these last couple of weeks when we were recording, talked about how negative Facebook can be. I was asking about, I wanted a chest strap on my rebreather, because when I've put it on, I fasten the straps quite over the shoulder, quite tight. Then I do me waist belt and that. It still feels like it's pulling on my chest loads. And I'd seen one particular dive, he'd bought a chest strap just to pull those shoulder straps over, to stop it pulling your shoulders back. So I
Mm,
went on a particular Facebook page about the particular rebreather and asked the question, and the amount of ridicule I got, and I'd not asked it,
really?
stupidly or out of
Yeah.
ignorance. It was just, has anyone done this? And which one would they buy and which one would they recommend? I found one on like Amazon. It was a tenner. Is this any good? Is this the right one? What do people think? And honest to God, there are people that come on and rather than just going, oh yeah, I encountered the same problem, or oh, I never thought of doing that, the
Mm,
ridicule I got. So I'm not surprised that people, whether they be men, women, or whatever, need a forum to go and ask a question where they feel more comfortable of asking it. But
exactly. Yeah.
I'm almost terrified of asking now, just in case you get this odd idiot that thinks it's just fun to come on and make you feel like you've asked something stupid when actually it was a genuinely serious question. In the end, I just went and bought what I bought and it worked and it was fine. Thanks very much. But you don't need that, do you?
Yeah. I
Why do
don't know.
people
Do you
need
know
that?
what? I don't really use Facebook, but I know
Yeah.
just in general the internet can be not a very nice place.
Mm.
So that's why I think these accounts that are a safe space and like the people that follow it are genuinely nice and they can answer. Oh, sorry, I'm just getting a call. 1 second. That's my prosthetics department.
Nice.
um, yeah, no, I understand. Like the internet can be a bit of a scary place. So it's
Yeah.
nice when you feel that you've found a community that's really welcoming and nice. And I think that's definitely what I had from Girls at Scuba for a while now. Um, but yeah, I think also I don't know if it's just Facebook maybe. I don't really
Mm.
use it, but maybe
Yeah.
that's
Well,
the
I literally put stuff on now so my like family can see, the family I don't see all the time. They can see what
mm,
I'm up to because most of them are not on Instagram, and I certainly don't follow my kids because they dress like you do when you're away, and I don't really see my kids like that. It's bad enough seeing anyone else doing it. You know what I mean? So it makes me dead nervous. I'm like, I can't even look at it. It's terrible.
yeah,
So let's talk about your leg if you don't mind. Obviously, that's your Instagram handle, so everyone will know you'll be One Fin Wanderer. How
yeah.
did being away in like a beach environment affect your prosthetic? Was it a drama? Did you have any dramas with it, or was it fine?
I didn't actually. I was having quite bad problems with my knee. I dislocated my knee the year before, like the August before I left. And even in the January when I spoke to you, it was pretty bad still. Like I was struggling to walk for more than a few minutes.
Yeah,
And it was interesting. I was quite nervous about going because when I left, it was still not good. But when I left, we were in lockdown here. So I wasn't able to go to the gym or swim. And it was weird. It was like when I got there, as soon as I started being in the water again, it's like it really helps. Like it made it so much
yeah,
better. And slowly it got stronger without me even trying. So I think I realized, okay, wherever you are, you have to stay in the water because that's obviously key to my rehab. And the prosthetic, like it's pretty rusty. That's why my prosthetic department was just on the phone to me because mine's it's like all the screws are completely rusted. So I have to get
wow,
everything. And I mean, partly it's my own fault, but partly it's just impossible to keep on top of it because you're constantly in the water.
yeah. Is it quite a humid
So
environment as well? So there's like
oh
a
my
lot of
god,
moisture
it's
in the
so
air.
hot. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
really, really it was like unbearable sometimes. It'd be like literally just be sat at dinner, just be sweating out my face. Oh god.
sounds almost minging, doesn't it?
It was like at times, yeah, because I went through a whole year, so I saw different seasons. And you have like a dry season and then the rainy season. In the rainy season,
Yeah,
it can be very humid, and I found that the hardest, than like just being hot. But yeah, it was a lot of a funny thing actually is that my leg, the blade, when I wear it on the beach, it's got like a foot shell that I wear over the blade part.
yeah.
So the foot shell will get filled with sand from I'm constantly on the beach and then I'll forget about it and I won't clear it out or something. And then I went to, went to the gym and I'd sit down in the gym after a session and then just this huge pile of sand just comes like this happens so often. Or I'd go around to someone's house and sand would be everywhere because it would be like
Oh
leaking out of
God.
my foot.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still now, even now, still I've brought it back to the UK, still sand just like pours out every time I sit down.
Trump.
But apart from that, no, it was fine, like with the beach and everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, take me back.
Take me with you. Oh, so
Cool.
what was the sort of diving like? Because your photographs are just of like, I'm just looking through your Instagram now. They're just like of you in the water as such. But what kind of diving is there? Is there any wrecks or anything? Is it all just sort of your pelagics and your coral reefs and that?
Um, so where I did my dive master, there's a few spots. So it's actually famous for having very strong current. So I had quite a few challenges with that, but also that means that you do get some quite cool stuff coming through. But a lot of that is really beautiful reefs. And then we also have a spot there called Manta Point, where you basically guaranteed to see at least like 5 manta rays every time you dive, because there's a cleaning station. So Manta Point and the north, where there's a lot of current, there's like you can kind of see anything and you're not really sure. Like there's been whale sharks there, there's been some bigger sharks, there's always turtles and rays. And then if you go on to Bali diving, on the north coast there's a really cool wreck, which I did at night. And when you in the night, your torches, they light the way for these huge groupers, and so they're like hunting using your lights below you, and they're just
Cool.
like it's like little puppies like underneath you, like they're really really cute, but they're huge. So yeah, the wreck was amazing. And there's also on the east coast of Bali, one of my favorite dives I've ever done actually is this cave dive. So there's some small caves off the side of the coast, and in them are maybe like 10 to 15 white tip sharks. And so
Wow.
you're in this tiny little cave with like completely surrounded by sharks, and it's really dark, and it's just like it was one of the coolest dives I've ever done. So it's
Yeah.
kind of, you've got it all really, like you've got the reef, beautiful reefs, and the big things and the small things and the wrecks.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit of a dream for divers.
Yeah, I think I might have to go and book it in about 5 minutes.
Yeah, you
How did you
should.
find night diving? Had you done it before?
Yeah, I really love night diving, so I was already really up for it. But
Yeah.
the night dive in the wreck was definitely the best night dive I've done. It was very cool.
I think my favourite, I can't remember what the actual wreck we were on. Or was it a reef? But anyway, it was in the Red Sea a couple of years ago. And there was enough ambient light from the boat and the moon and the stars and that we didn't really need a torch. It was very late at night, it was late enough to be pitch black outside, but there was enough ambient light and we were quite shallow that you could literally get about without having to ruin the dive with a torch. It was,
Mm,
it was pretty
yeah,
epic.
that's really cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
because yeah, with your torch, it's a bit annoying.
Mm,
But yeah, and also I did my first ever liveaboard, so that was in the Sea,
right.
which was very cool because not many people have been through there before. So it was a bit of a exciting one. Like we didn't know what we were going to see. We were looking for hammerheads, but
Yeah.
unfortunately we just missed the season by about
Oh,
3 days
devastating.
apparently. Yeah,
Yeah.
but still very cool. And like throughout Indonesia, there's like Komodo and Raja Ampat, which I didn't get to do yet. So there's sort of like endless opportunities for cool diving there.
What about your research? What did you get on with that? What did you learn? What did you prove?
So kind of like we were contributing to their data. So we were helping doing reef surveys. So we did a lot of training in fish ID. So we'd be able to actually accurately ID which fish we saw. So we had to pass like series of exams before we were allowed to start. And then we'd go out and do like specific reef surveys to see the numbers of different kinds of fish on the reef. And then we also did this very cool research method, which was dropping a bruv, it's called.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
baited remote underwater video. And so you're in a team, and each person in the team has a different job, so a different thing to set up. So you have
Mm,
the huge frame or the GoPro or the bait pole, and you go down as a team, and you have like a very fast amount of time that you need to set it up.
Yeah.
And so this would be like at 30 meters or something. Leave it for an hour and then go back down and collect it. And we then would analyze the recordings for the different big species that you see come past, to try and analyze how many kind of sharks and bigger animals are on the reef. So that was very cool. That was one of my favorite parts of doing the research, actually. Doing the
Did you see
birds.
anything good on it that you didn't expect to see?
There was a few like cool sharks, nothing like huge. But I mean, it's one of those, when you're watching the video, it's actually very boring when you're analyzing it. So anything that comes on is so exciting, because you're staring at a screen of just blue, and then suddenly like a huge moray eel will come in and you'll be like, oh my god,
Yeah.
moray. And so just anything that came on was quite exciting. We would get excited about anything. Some like beautiful videos of mantas coming in, or like stingrays, but some really cool unique ones. And we had lots of eels, some sharks. It was very good. Yeah.
How difficult do you think it would be to recreate your experience now for someone else? You know, literally from when you flew out, you did your Divemaster, and then spending the rest of the year out there. Do you reckon it'd be quite easy?
As in, if somebody wanted to do the exact same thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so the program that I was on, you have to apply to be on it, and they don't have that many spots, but they're still taking applicants. So you could go and be an intern on the exact same program if you get accepted.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, there's lots of expats currently living out in Bali and doing the same thing that I was doing. So it's definitely possible. Yeah, to probably recreate it exactly. And it depends what time you go. So we also saw Nusa Penida is famous for sunfish, mola mola. And I kind of just missed the season. So if there was a group of interns that went in and more just after I finished, and they saw so many mola like every single dive. So it depends when you go, when you start, what the different stuff you'd see would be. But yeah, I think you could basically recreate it if someone wanted to.
Give us a do and a don't do if someone who wants to plan this kind of a trip. Like what would you do again, or that you didn't do and you would do, and what would you definitely just avoid without like ruining your relationship with everyone over there, in case anybody listens to this?
I mean, I would do literally the whole year again if I could. It was that good. Don't do, like, literally, yeah, everything was amazing, so I can't even say anything that I wouldn't do. But there would be one thing, because I did end up in hospital in my first few weeks of doing my Divemaster. I was like partying a bit too much on the side and not drinking enough water.
You don't drink, do you?
Yeah. I'm an
everyone
angel,
pictures you
crazy.
drinking your hand.
But I mean, it's fine as long as you can like manage it. But I think I just got a bit excited. Like I'd come from being in lockdown and not being able to do anything, and then suddenly there's like live music and there's a social life and the beach, and I just got a bit dehydrated and wasn't eating properly. I had like Bali belly, but I wasn't, so I just didn't eat. And then I wasn't drinking water, and then I was just drinking beer and then diving, and so I ended up getting quite ill, and we thought that I actually had DCS. So I was on oxygen, and I had pins and needles throughout my arms and my leg, and it turns out it was like severe dehydration. And I ended up going on an IV, but it was very scary. And I think it really like knocked it into me then after that I need to look after myself more. And I think it was definitely a lesson. So I don't regret anything, because I think I took a lot from the experience. But for sure, the internship program used my story as a word of warning for new interns. I think I'm famous for
very
being
much
an
sort
idiot.
of treat it like you're going out to work in a really nice place, but you're not going on holiday, and you'd be all right, wouldn't you?
I think you just have to like not forget that to look after yourself. Like you get so caught up in, especially anywhere you do your Divemaster, I think it's the same. It's such an amazing time, and you're having so much fun, and you're so focused on what you're doing that you forget, actually I have to stay hydrated and I have to eat properly. And need to get enough sleep, because otherwise it can ruin your time. So it nearly did for me, and I was lucky to be fine. But I think, yeah, it was definitely one thing I'd say, don't do that. Don't not drink water. Actually would really like to go out, maybe next month on a surf camp somewhere.
Yeah.
So I think I'd really like to, like, I feel like my dive master was this challenge for me, and I saw it as like, wow, imagine being a dive master. That's something I didn't think I'd ever be able to do, and to have done it is a really amazing feeling. But that's also how I felt when I first saw surfers, and I thought, oh, I don't think I'll ever be able to do that. Like, that's okay, that's my limit, that's not something. And so then the fact that I was able to is another like challenge that I think has been really lighting a fire in me. So I would love to continue with that and see where I could go. And there's actually something called adaptive surfing, and they have big competitions around the world. So I'd really like to see where that goes in terms of surfing and improving. And then diving, I think, I'm not sure. I think I'd love it to be part of my career from now on, but I don't know exactly how that's going to look yet.
Yeah. Just suppose, like you said, if you've got this newfound love for water, whether it be on top of, in, or around
Mm,
it, doesn't matter, innit? As long as you're near it, you're gonna get something from it, aren't
exactly.
you?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, just I'd love to now really focus on getting some work which is to do with ocean conservation, because I think, as you say, everything that I love is either being in, learning about, going under the ocean. So if I can find a way to spend my life kind of protecting the ocean, I think that would be the dream. And I'm very much at a point now where I'm ready to, how am I going to do that? Let's work it out. Let's
Yeah.
find out what my next path is. So I don't know exactly what it'll look like. Hopefully, next time I speak to you, I'll be like, right, I've figured it out. I've got it.
Mint. How was the dive show then? Was it good? I couldn't go.
It
I've
was
been
really
working all
good.
weekend, me,
I
so
was
I was
thinking,
gutted I couldn't go.
yeah, I was thinking I was going to see you there actually, because it was quite spontaneous that I went. Stephen Whelan invited me. He said,
Did he?
oh, he saw I was back here. He
Yeah.
also, by the way, has been hating me this year. So he was like, you're back in the UK, are you coming to the show? And I didn't know about it, and it's just a few days ago, so I kind of spontaneously went.
Yeah.
But it was very busy. There's a lot of divers in the UK. Who knew?
Yeah. We were
But
Devo.
it's
I'd
cool.
asked a load of my mates, "Are we going?" And some of them were and ahhing because they're up in Scotland. A few of them are in Wales, and again, we might be. We're not sure. Nobody wanted to make concrete plans and like, let's get a hotel and
Mm,
let's go out on Saturday night or anything like that. And then I
yeah,
ended up picking this job up, so I've been working every Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the last month and the next month. So I just couldn't. I could not get away. But I was devastated because I spoke to all these hundreds of people, and I've never met most of them. And it'd be just
yeah,
good to catch up with it and just, oh yeah, you all right? How are you doing? And actually meet
yeah.
face to face. And
It was
obviously,
that was it. That you see people that you like only met on social media or something,
yeah,
and then that was very cool. It was, and the speeches were really good, the talks.
yeah.
So yeah, very good. I'll go again
Mm,
next year for sure.
yeah, I think I will if I've nothing else on. That's not to say that I don't want to go. It just if
Yeah.
if there's nothing else that can stop me going, it'd be right. Well,
Mm.
thanks for coming on, mate. I appreciate your time because
Yeah,
it's
thank
nice to
you.
see how it transpired. Because, like we say, we're talking about your Instagram all day long because it looks fantastic. But to know the sort
Well,
of intricate details.
let me know if you go, and I'll give you
Oh
all
well.
my favorite places. Yeah.
I need to start saving up though. Even if it is 20 quid a night, I
Yeah,
need to get
it
some
might
decent.
start going up as well now.
How long was the
So
flight, by the way, to get out there? Is it quite a while?
I think it's like an 18-hour journey,
Is
19
it a
hour
couple of
journey.
flights, several flights, or
Two,
just
yeah,
direct?
two flight. You don't, yeah, you can't go direct, I don't think.
So I may as well go for 3 weeks then, eh?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't go for less than 2 or 3 weeks, because you're just
Yeah.
not gonna get what you want done. And when you're
Mm.
there, it's cheap. It's the flights that are probably your biggest expense. So,
Are they?
well,
Right,
yeah.
cool. Right, well, I'll give you a
So
shout
yeah,
in a
you have
couple
to
of
let
weeks
me
when this
know.
is coming out, and then probably a few weeks later
Yeah.
when Mrs. Clark's decided to like pay for our holiday because I've no money.
Yeah.
Sell me rebreather to go. Right, nice one, mate. Have a nice afternoon, yeah?
Yeah, you as well. Nice to speak to
All right,
you.
you too. See you soon. Ta.
Bye.
Bye. So that brings us to the end of the episode, and I hope you've enjoyed this week's guest enough to subscribe to the Fancy a Brew podcast and leave us a 5-star review wherever you download your podcasts. Don't forget to take a look at Dive Life's website and social media channels, as they always have some great deals available, and you can use promo code ATND10 at the checkout to get some money off any non-discounted items. For more information on this episode, take a look at the description or follow us on Instagram for all the latest news and upcoming releases. Thanks for listening. I'll see you on the next one.